And we are live. Made it home just in time. Hopefully everyone is doing good. Hopefully my mic is working. 3 hours wait for you to spend 3k points. 3k point 10k points on what? See, I'm already dyslexic. um K points. Oh, it got redeemed yesterday and oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It it was something else. It got clipped yesterday. It's only redeemable like once per day because I mean you gotta rack them up. You know? You gotta rack the points up. Thank you for the like, Seta. Time to start. Yeah. Yeah. No! Yeah. This is what you're gonna do now instead of scaring me. You eat stuff at me and then head pat me. Yeah. Is it what is this what we're doing now? My goodness. No more scaring, we just throw shit. No. But honestly, the throws still scare me. Oh, hi Art. Honestly, if I'm like super focused, that like the smacks are just as loud. They are just as loud. It like that initial smack startles me. I do have coffee on hand. I slept in today and it was awesome. Hi, Mystic. How are you? I'm glad you're good. It's better than Piano Queen? Yeah. uh, Bubbles. Yeah, so your bubble. Hey. No bubbles. Apparently, we had decided on. This is like all the bubbles. Yeah, all the bubbles. We had decided on Stormfront. It's the first book in the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher. Eight cups of coffee means you're not gonna sleep tonight? No, me neither. You know, I think I myself can redeem daily coffee too. Mine has. Ayo, why are the water bottles so huge? Huge water bottles got thrown at me, Suzu. Thank you for the hydrate. I was literally messing around with it. Fine. Suzu. Suzu. Guess what? Gamer? Gamer Z Guy 3K is Nef Nef. There. Water. Oh, yes. Drink beer? I don't drink beer. No, I don't drink beer. Honestly, this looks like a very long book. Oh, hi, hi. Welcome in. I do drink wine. But if I drank wine right now, we would not get through much of the book. If you don't fall asleep, you'll do better than doing good. Drunk panda stream AO into a bottle. You'd pass out first, Saso. Oh my goodness. Honestly, with me being dyslexic, I don't know how far into the book I'd get. There's like 148 pages to this. There's like one word. Stop, Suzu. I like the confidence you have in me. None. Non existent. Non existent. You were gonna ask what? I read the title. It has 27 chapters. How many pages? Yeah, 27 chapters, 148 pages. And chapter 1. I don't know, is the music in the background alright? Then it was like, it was too quiet. My ADHD can't do too quiet. It's not too loud, is it? I'm just waiting for. Or it's not too loud. I meant that. Suzu. Oh god, I'm gonna get through the first paragraph and I'm gonna be like, fuck. Y'all wanted this? Y'all wanted my dyslexic ass to read? And y'all are getting that. I don't know why. Y'all chose this torture. Sure. They'll mess up on the first word. Hi. All right. Watch me mess up just like the whole paragraph. Oh god, there's big words. War, you screwed me over. I'm just kidding. There are big words. I just glanced at a big word I don't know how to pronounce. Like my eyes zoned in on it. War. How dare. It's like in the second sentence too. Or how dare. I want a refund. Not the big words. The big words are a no-no. Ah. Yep, second word will do me in. Second word. Second sentence, fuck. Shush. Alright. I heard the mailman approach my office door half an hour earlier than usual. He didn't sound right. His footsteps fell more heavily. Jauntily? And he whistled. A new guy. He whistled his way to my office door. Then fell silent for a moment. Then he laughed. Then he knocked. I winced. My mail comes through the mail slot. Unless it's registered. You get a really limited selection of registered mail. And it's never good news. I got up out of my office chair and opened the door. The new mailman, who looked like a basketball. Wait, what? Sound right? Hi, All-Star. Honestly, I'm reading this and it's not making sense. My brain is burring as I'm reading this. Oh god. You look like a basketball? Oh no. A cameo in the book. Look like a basketball with arms and legs. In a sunburned, balding head. Perhaps I should have given you my recommendation to read. Rango a 10. You know, honestly, like, I'm just like not even a full paragraph in. And I'm like, what is going on? War may have underestimated my reading knowledge. I thought you were gonna read the dictionary. You know, that might have been a harder one. Bubbles. And a sunburned, balding head was chuckling at the sign on the door glass. Yeah, overestimated my reading ability. I would have, honestly. Honestly, Nuff Nuff, I would have. He glanced at me and hooked a thumb towards the sign. You're kidding, right? I read the sign. People change it occasionally. Shook my head. No, I'm serious. Can I have my mail, please? So, like parties, shows, stuff like that. He looked past me as though he expected to see a white tiger or possibly some gimply clad assistants prancing around my one room office. Don't worry, you would fill your own language dictionary. I sighed, not in the mood to get mocked again, and reached for the mail he held in his hand. No, not like that. I don't do parties. He held on to it, his head tilted curiously. So what? Some kind of fortune teller? Little Pit, I saw that. Cards and crystal balls and things. No, I told him, I'm not a psychic. I tugged at the mail. He held on to it. What are you then? What's the sign on the door say? It says, Harry Dresden, wizard. That's me, I confirmed. An actual wizard, he asked, grinning as though I should let him in on the joke. Spells and potions? Demons and incantations? Subtle and quick to anger. Not so subtle. I jerked the mail out of his hand and looked pointedly at his clipboard. Can I sign for my mail, please? The new mailman's grin vanished, replaced with a scowl. He passed over the clipboard, let me sign for the mail. Another late notice from my landlord, and said, You're a nut, that's what you are. He took his clipboard back and said, You have a nice day, sir. I watched him go. Exactly, you're a wizard, Harry. Typical. I muttered, hello, and shut the door. My name is Harry Blackstone, Copperfield, Dresden. Conjure by it at your own risk. I'm a wizard. I work out of an office in Midtown, Chicago. As far as I know, I'm the only openly practicing professional wizard in the country. You can find me in the Yellow Pages under Wizards. Believe it or not, I'm the only one there. My ad looks like this. It reads, Harry Dresden, wizard, lost items found, paranormal investigations, consulting, advice, reasonable rates, no love potions, endless purses, parties, or other entertainment. You'd be surprised how many people call just to ask me if I'm serious. But then, if you'd seen the things I'd seen, you knew half of what I knew. You'd wonder how anyone could not think I was serious. The end of the 20th century and the dawn of the new millennium had seen something of a renaissance in the public awareness of the paranormal. Psychics, haunts, vampires, you name it. People still didn't take them seriously, but all the things science had promised us hadn't come to pass. Disease was still a problem. Starvation was still a problem. Violence and crime and war were still problems. In spite of the advance of technology, things just hadn't changed the way everyone had hoped and thought they would. Science, the largest religion of the 20th century, had become somewhat tarnished by images of exploding space shuttles, crack babies, and a generation of complacent Americans who had allowed the television to raise their children. People were looking for something. I think they just didn't know what. And even though they were once again starting to open their eyes to the world of magic and the arcane that had just been with them all the while, they still thought I must be some kind of joke. Anyway, it had been a slow month, a slow pair of months actually. My rent from February didn't get paid until the 10th of March. It was looking like it might be even longer until I got caught up for this month. My only job had been the previous week when I'd gone down to Branson, Missouri to investigate a country singer's possibly haunted house. Hadn't been, my client hadn't been happy with that answer and had been even less happy when I suggested he lay off any intoxicating substances and try to get some exercise and sleep and see if that didn't help things more than an exorcism. I'd gotten travel expenses plus an hour's pay. Oi! How dare! Not gonna lie, that scared me. Ayo, you got 69 coffees? Yosh. Where was I? All the bubbles. Goddamn. Alright. I'll hydrate. Hmm. And gone away feeling I had done the honest, righteous, and impractical thing. I heard later that he'd hired a shyster psychic to come in and perform a ceremony with a lot of incense and black lights. Some people. I finished up my paper bag and tossed it into the dun box. There was a pile of red and discarded paper bags, a cardboard box on one side, my desk, the spines bent, the pages mangled. I'm terribly hard on books. I was eyeing the pile of unread books, considering which to start next. Given that I had no real work to do, my phone rang. I stared at, in a somewhat surly fashion. You wizards are terrific at brooding. After the third ring, when I thought I wouldn't sound a little too eager, I picked up the receiver and said, Dresden? Oh, is this, Harry Dresden? The, wizard? Her tone was apologetic, as though she were terribly afraid you'd be insulting me. Now I thought, is Harry Dresden the, lizard? Harry the wizard is one door down. You're a lizard, Harry. Thank you for the lure. So instead of a wizard, he's a lizard. What do you mean, PGP? There's no game. What's PRP? No. Oh God, no. You forgot the dyslexic in there somewhere. Oh God. It is the prerogative of wizards to be grumpy. It is not, however, the prerogative of freelance consultants who are late on their rent. So instead of saying something smart, I told the woman on the phone, Yes, ma'am. How can I help you today? Pro role player. Hey, yo, so. She said, I'm not sure. I've lost something. I think maybe you could help me. Finding lost articles is my specialty, I said. What would I be looking for? There was a nervous pause. My husband, she said. She had a voice that was a little hoarse, like that of a cheerleader who'd been working a long tournament, that had enough weight of years in it to place her as an adult. My eyebrows went up. Ma'am, I'm not really a missing persons specialist. Have you contacted the police or a private investigator? No, she said quickly. No, they can't. That is, I haven't. Oh dear. This is also complicated. Not something someone can talk about on the phone. I'm sorry to have taken up your time, Mr. Dresden. Hold on now, I said quickly. I'm sorry. You didn't tell me your name. There was that nervous pause again, as though she were checking a sheet of written notes before answering. Call me Monica. I will not be teaching reading. Had to be as polite and harmless as I could. Alright, you just skipped my spot. I scrolled too far. What? People who know nothing about wizards don't like to give us their names. They're convinced that if they give a wizard their name from their own lips, it could be used against them. To be fair, they're right. I had to be as polite and harmless as I could. He was about to hang up out of pure indecision, and I needed the job. I'd probably turn hubby up if I worked at it. Okay, Monica, I told her, trying to sound as melodious and friendly as I could. If you feel your situation is of a sensitive nature, maybe you could come by my office and talk about it. If it turns out that I can help you best, I will. And if not, then I can direct you to someone. I can help you better. I gritted my teeth and pretended I was smiling. No charge. It must have been the no charge that did it. She agreed to come right out to the office and told me that she would be there in an hour. That put her estimated arrival at about 2:30. Plenty of time to go out and get some lunch, then get back to the office to meet her. The phone rang again, almost the instant I put it down, making me jump. I peered at it. I don't trust electronics. Anything manufactured after the 40s is suspect and doesn't seem to have much liking for me. You name it: cars, radios, telephones, TVs, VCRs. None of them seem to behave well for me. I don't even like to use automatic pencil. I answered the phone with the same false cheer I had summoned up for Monica. Husband missing. This is Dresden. May I help you? Harry, I need you at the Madison in the next 10 minutes. Can you be there? The voice on the other end of the line was also a woman's, cool, brisk, businesslike. Why, Lieutenant Murphy, I gushed, overflowing with, I can't say that. What the hell is even that word? Sasha. What? What? Why do they use these words? I'm gonna replace it with a word I know. Overflowing with sweetness. That's too big of a word. No, it's this word. I've never heard it. I'm over, overflowing with sweetness. Yeah. Is that what we're using? What it is? Yeah, what it is. So sweet, right? Sweet. Sweetness. fake sweet. Oh my goodness. Good to hear from you. Bubbles. Also, big shout out to also, for those of you that don't know, big shout out, go give Flu Flu a follow. He is the one that recorded the bubbles for me. Give him a follow. Yes. Yeah. Everyone, tell Flu Flu thank you for the bubbles. Yes. Also, it is in the soundboard, Flu Flu, within the server, so bubbles everywhere. Thank you. And I do have that file if you want a copy of the bubbles. Sucker. Right. Hell yeah. We shall continue. Bring up the word vomit. Everyone getting all cozy. Coffee, blankets, snacks. Alright. Good to hear from you. Been so long. Oh, they're fine. Fine. And your family? David, Harry. Got a couple of bodies here. I need you to take a look at her. I sobered immediately. Karen Murphy was the director of special investigations out of downtown Chicago, a de facto appointee of the police commissioner to investigate any crimes dubbed unusual. Vampire attacks, troll mauderings, and fairy abductions of children didn't fit in very neatly on a police report. But at the same time, people got attacked, infants got stolen, property was damaged or destroyed, and someone had to look into it. Hi, Ash. How are you? Good for the hip, yeah. In Chicago, pretty much anywhere in Chicagoland, that person was Karen Murphy. I was her library of the supernatural on legs, and a paid consultant for the police department with 2 bodies, 2 deaths by means unknown. I hadn't handled anything like that for her before. Like an in on you and reading stream. It's going good. We are still in the first chapter. You know, I am trying. I have messed up, but I'm just rolling with it at this point. I am severely dyslexic, but we're doing good. This is what you guys wanted, and this is what you guys are getting. Is this what you wanted, Canada? Is this what you hoped for? Is it all you ever wanted? Is this what everyone had hoped for? Imagine. You're loving it. It's really relaxing and warm. I'm glad. It's going better than you thought. Yeah. I'm glad. PRP. Hey. Bubbles. Where are you? I asked her. Madison Hotel on 10th, 7th floor. It's only a 15-minute walk from my office, I said. You can be here in 15 minutes. Good. I said. I looked at the clock. Monica, no last name, would be here in a little more than 45 minutes. I've sort of got an appointment. Dresden, I've sort of got a pair of corpses with no leads and no suspects. And a killer walking around loose. Your appointment. My temper flared. It does that occasionally. It can't, actually, I said. But I'll tell you what. I'll stroll on over. Take a look around. Be back here in time for it. Have you had a lunch yet? She asked. What? She repeated the question. No, I said. Don't. There was a pause. And when she spoke again, there was a sort of greenish tone to her words. It's bad. How bad are we talking here? Murph. Her voice softened, and that scared me more than any images of gore or violent death could have. Murphy was the original tough girl. She prided herself on never showing weakness. It's bad, Harry. Please don't take too long. Special Crimes is itching to get their fingers on this one. And I know you don't like people to touch the scene before you can look around. I'm on the way, I told her, already standing and pulling on my jacket. 7th floor, she reminded me. See you there. Okay. I turned off the lights to the office, went out the door, and locked up behind me, frowning. I wasn't sure how long it was going to take to investigate Murphy's scene. Didn't want to miss out on speaking with Monica. Asked me no questions. So I opened the door again, got out a piece of paper and a thumbtack and wrote, out briefly, back for appointment at 2:30. Dresden. That done, I started down the stairs. I rarely use the elevator, even though I'm on the 5th floor. Like I said, I don't trust machines. They're always breaking down on me just when I need them. Besides which, if I were someone in this town using magic to kill two at a time, I didn't want to get caught. Make sure that I remove the only practicing wizard the police department kept on retainer. I liked my odds on the stairwell a lot better than I did in the cramped confines of the elevator. Paranoid? Probably. But just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that there isn't an invisible demon about to eat your face. That ends chapter 1. That was only 6 pages. Not gonna lie, this is very long. Doing great. Yeah. Oh god, does this mean I have to finish the whole book for you guys? It does, doesn't it? No, in multiple streams. Hey yo. Imagine. Alright. Chapter 2. Aaron Murphy was waiting for me outside the Madison. Aaron and I are a study in contrast, where I'm tall and lean, she's short and stocky, where I have dark hair and dark eyes. She's got Shirley Temple, blonde locks, baby blue, where my features are all lean and angular, with a hawkish nose and a sharp chin. Hers are round and smooth, with the kind of cute nose you'd expect on a cheerleader. It was cool and windy, like it usually is in March. She wore a long coat, covered her pants. Murphy never wore dresses, though I suspected she'd have muscular, well-shaped legs, like a gymnast. She was built for function and had a pair of trophies in her office from Aikido tournaments to prove it. Her hair was cut at shoulder length and whipped out wildly in the spring wind. She wasn't wearing earrings, and her makeup was of sufficient quality and quantity that it was, though, tough to tell she had on any at all. She looked more like a favorite aunt or a cheerful mother than a hard-bitten homicide detective. Don't you have any other jackets, Justin? She asked. I came within hailing distance. There were several police cars parked illegally in front of the building. She glanced at my eyes for half a second and then away, quickly. I had to give her credit. It was more than most people did. It wasn't really dangerous, unless you did it for several seconds. But I was used to anyone who knew I was a wizard making it a point not to glance up my face. I looked down at my black canvas duster with this heavy mantling and waterproof lining and sleeves, actually long enough for my arms. What's wrong with this one?
I will send you to Jesus.
Yeah. It belongs on the set of El Dorado. And she snorted. An indelicate sound from so small a woman, and spun on her heel. Oh God. Yeah? We walked toward the hotel's front doors. I caught up and walked a little ahead of her. She sped her pace, so did I. Testing out the new stuff? Hell yeah. We raced one another toward the front door with increasing speed. Through the puddles left over from last night's rain. My legs were longer. I got there first. I opened the door for her and gallantly gestured for her to go in. It was an old contest of ours. Maybe my values are outdated. I come from an old school of thought. I think that men ought to treat women like something other than just shorter, weaker men with breasts. Try and convict me if I'm a bad person for thinking so. I enjoy treating a woman like a lady, opening doors for her, paying for shared meals, giving flowers, all that sort of thing. It irritates the hell out of Murphy, who had to fight and claw and play dirty with the hairiest men in Chicago to get as far as she has. She glared up at me while I stood there holding open the door. There was a reassurance about the glare, a relaxation. She took an odd sort of comfort in our ritual, annoying as she usually found it. How bad was it up on the 7th floor anyway? We rode the elevator in a sudden silence. We knew one another well enough by this time that the silences. Thank you for the hydrate. I got you. We rode the elevator in a sudden silence. We knew one another well enough by this time that the silences were not uncomfortable. I had a good sense of Murphy, an instinctual grasp for her moods and patterns of thought, something I developed whenever I'm around someone for any length of time. Whether it's a natural talent or a supernatural one, I don't know. My instincts told me that Murphy was tense, stretched as tight as a piano wire. He kept it off her face. There was something about the set of her shoulders and neck, stiffness of her back, that made me aware of it. Or maybe I was just projecting it onto her. Confines of the elevator made me a bit nervous. I licked my lips and looked around the interior of the car. My shadow and Murphy's fell on the floor. It almost looked as though they were sprawled there. There was something about it that bothered me, a nagging little instinct that I blew off as a case of nerves. Steady, Harry. She let out a harsh breath just as the elevator slowed and sucked in another one before the doors could open. Though she were planning on holding it for as long as we were on the floor and breathing only while she got back in the elevator again. Lead smells a certain way, a kind of sticky, almost metallic odor, and the air was full of it. When the elevator's doors opened, my stomach quailed a little bit, but I swallowed manfully and followed Murphy out of the elevator and down the hall past a couple of uniformed cops who recognized me and waved me past without asking to see the little laminated card the city had given me. Granted, even in a big city department like Chicago PD, they didn't exactly call in a horde of consultants. I went down in the paperwork as a psychic consultant, I think. But still, I'm professional of the boys in blue. Murphy preceded me into the room. Smell of blood grew thicker. But there wasn't anything gruesome behind door number 1. The outer room of the suite looked like some kind of sitting room done in rich tones of red and gold, like a set from an old movie in the 30s. Expensive looking, but somehow fox nonetheless. Dark, rich leather covered the chairs. My feet sank into the thick, rust-colored shag of the carpet. The velvet velour curtains had been drawn, and though the lights were all on, the place still seemed a little too dark, a little too sensual in its textures and colors. It wasn't the kind of room you sit and read a book. Voices came from a doorway to my right. Wait here a minute, Murphy told me. Then she went through the door to the right of the entryway and into what I suppose was the bedroom of the suite. I wandered around the sitting room with my eyes mostly closed. Noting things: leather couch, 2 leather chairs, stereo, and television in a black, glossy entertainment center, champagne bottle, warming in a stand holding a brimming tub, what had been iced the night before, with 2 empty glasses set beside it. There was a red rose petal on the floor, clashing with the carpeting, but then in that room, what didn't? A bit to one side, under the skirt of one of the leather recliners, was a little piece of satiny cloth. I bent at the waist and lifted the skirt with one hand careful not to touch anything. A pair of black satin panties. A tiny triangle with lace coming off the points lay there, one strap nabbed as though the thong had simply been torn off. Kinky. Just making sure you guys are listening. Had to pause to drink coffee. That was a perfect time to pause. Hmm. AL indeed. Has this book piqued your interest yet? I don't know. Hmm. All right. The stereo system was state of the art, though not an expensive brand. I took a pencil from my pocket and pushed the play button with the eraser. Gentle, sensual music filled the room. A low bass, driving drum beat, wordless vocals, the heavy breathing of a woman as background. The music continued for a few seconds more, and then it began to skip over a section about 2 seconds long, repeating it over and over again. I grimaced. Like I said, I have this effect on machinery. It has something to do with being a wizard, with working with magical forces. The more delicate and modern the machine is, the more likely it is that something will go wrong. If I get close enough to it, I can kill a copier at 50 paces. The love suite, came a man's voice, drawing the word love out in love. What do you think, Mr. Man? Hello, Detective Carmichael, I said, without turning around. Carmichael's rather light, nasal voice had a distinctive quality. He was Murphy's partner and the resident skeptic, convinced that I was nothing more than a charlatan, scamming the city out of its hard-earned money. Were you saving the panties to take home yourself? Or did you just overlook them? I turned and looked at him. He was short and overweight and balding, with beady, bloodshot eyes and a weak chin. His jacket was rumpled, and there were food stains on his tie, all of which served to conceal a razor intellect. He was a sharp cop and absolutely rootless at tracking down killers. He walked over to the chair and looked down. Not bad, Sherlock, he said. That's just foreplay. Wait till you see the main attraction. I'll have a bucket waiting for you. He turned and killed the malfunctioning CD player with the jab from the eraser end of his own pencil. I widened my eyes at him to let him know how terrified I was, then walked past him and into the bedroom and regretted it. I looked, noted details mechanically. And quietly shut the door on the part of my head that had started screaming the second I entered the room. He must have died sometime the night before, as rigor mortis had already set in. They were on the bed. He was astride him, body leaned back bowed like a dancer, the curves of her breasts making a lovely outline. He stretched beneath her, a lean and powerfully built man, arms reaching out and grasping at the satin sheets, gathering them in his fists. Had it been an erotic photograph, it would have made a striking tableau. Except that the lovers' rib cages on the upper left side of their torsos had expanded outward through their skin, their ribs jabbing out like ragged, snapped knives. Arterial blood had sprayed out of their bodies, all the way to the mirror on the ceiling, along with pulped gelatinous masses of flesh that had to be what remained of their hearts. Standing over them, I could see into the upper cavity of the bodies. I noted the now grayish lining around the motionless left lungs and the edges of the ribs, which apparently were forced outwards and snapped by some force within. It definitely cut down on the erotic potential. The bed was in the middle of the room, giving it a subtle emphasis. The bedroom followed the decor, the sitting room, a lot of red, a lot of plush fabrics, a little over the top, unless viewed in candle. There were indeed candles in holders on the wall, numbered down to the nubs and extinguished. I stepped closer to the bed and walked around it. The carpet squelched as I did. The little screaming part of my brain, safely locked up behind doors of self-control and strict training, continued gibbering. I tried to ignore it. Really, I did. But if I didn't get out of that room in a hurry, I was going to start crying like a little girl. I took in the details fast. The woman was in her 20s, in fabulous condition. At least I thought she had been. Hard to tell. She had hair the color of chestnuts, cut in a page boy style. It seemed dyed to me. Her eyes were only partly open. I couldn't quite guess at their color. Beyond, not dark, vaguely green. The man was probably in his 40s and had the kind of fitness that comes from a lifetime of conditioning. There was a tattoo on his right bicep, a winged dagger that the pull of the satin sheets half concealed. There were scars on his knuckles, layers deep, and across his lower abdomen was a vicious, narrow, puckered scar that I guess must have come from a knife wound. There were discarded clothes around, a tux for him, a little sheath of a black dress, and a pair of pumps for her. There were a pair of overnight bags, unopened, and a set neatly aside, probably by a porter. I looked up. Carmichael and Murphy were watching me in silence. I shrugged at them. Well, Murphy demanded, are we dealing with magic here, or aren't we? Either that, or it was really incredible sex, I told her. Carmichael snorted. I laughed a little, too, and that was all the screaming part of my brain needed to slam open the doors I'd shut on it. Aye, Jay. My stomach revolted and heaved, and I lurked out of the room. Carmichael, true to his word, had set a stainless steel bucket outside the room, and I fell to my knees, throwing up. It only took me a few seconds to control myself again. I didn't want to go back into that room. I didn't need to see what was there anymore. I didn't want to see the two dead people whose hearts had literally exploded out of their chests. If someone had used magic to do it, they had used magic to wreak harm on another, violating first law. The White Council was going to go into collective apoplexy. This hadn't been the act of a malign spirit or a malicious entity, or the attack of one of the many creatures of the never. Uh-oh. Like vampires or trolls. This had been the premeditated, deliberate act of a sorcerer. A wizard, a human being able to tap into the fundamental energies of creation and life itself. It was worse than murder. It was twisted, wretched perversion, as if someone had bludgeoned another person to death with a Botticelli, turned something of beauty to an act of utter destruction. If you've never touched it, it's hard to explain. Magic is created by life, and most of all, by the awareness, intelligence, emotions of a human being. To end such a life with the same magic that was born from it was hideous, almost incestuous somehow. I sat up again and was breathing hard, shaking and tasting the bile in my mouth when Murphy came back out of the room with Carmichael. All right, Harry, Murphy said, let's have it. What do you see happening here? Botticelli was an artist, so Botticelli in context being used here as a synonym for work of art. Ah, okay. Okay. I took a moment to collect my thoughts before answering. They came in. They had some champagne. They danced for a while, made out over there by the stereo, then went into the bedroom. They were in there for less than an hour. It hit them when they were getting into the high point. Less than an hour, Carmichael said. How do you figure? CD was only an hour and 10 long. Figure a few minutes for dancing and drinking, and then they're in the room. Was the CD playing when they found them? No, Murphy said. Then it hadn't been set on a loop. I figured they wanted music just to make things perfect, given the room and all. Carmichael grunted sourly. Nothing we hadn't already figured out for ourselves, he said to Murphy. You'd better come up with more than this. Murphy shot Carmichael a look that said shut up, and said softly, I need more, Harry. I ran one of my hands back over my hair. There's only two ways anyone could have managed this. The first is by evocation. Evocation is the most direct, spectacular, and noisy form of expressed magic. Or sorcery. Explosions, fire, that sort of thing. But I doubt it was an evocator who did this. Why? Murphy demanded. I heard her pencil scratching on the notepad. She always kept it with her. Because you have to be able to see or touch where you want your effect to go, I told her. Line of sight only. The man or woman would have had to be in there, in the room with them. Tough to hide forensic evidence with something like that, and anyone who was skilled enough to pull off a spell like that would have had to the sense to use a gun instead. It's easier. What's the other option? Murphy said. Turkey, I said. As above, so below. Make something happen on a small scale. Give it the energy to happen on a larger scale. Carmichael snorted. Shit. Murphy's voice sounded skeptical. How would that work, Harry? Could it be done from somewhere else? I nodded. Killer would need to have something to connect him or her to the victims. Hair, fingernails, blood samples. That sort of thing. Like a voodoo doll. Exactly the same thing. Yes. There's fresh dye in the woman's hair, Murphy said. I nodded. Maybe if you can find out where she got her hair styled, you can find something out. I don't know. Is there anything else you could tell me that would be of use? Yes. The killer knew the victims, and I'm thinking it was a woman. Carmichael snorted. I don't believe we got to sit here and listen to this. 9 times out of 10, the killer knows the victim. Shut up, Carmichael, Murphy said. What makes you say that, Harry? I'm good, Jay. How are you? Thank you for the lurk. Nuff nuff. Just doing some reading, Jay. I stood up and rubbed up my face with my hands. The way magic works, whenever you do something with it, it comes from inside of you. Wizards have to focus on that, on what we're trying to do, visualize it, believe in it, to make it work. You can't make something happen that isn't a part of you. Inside, the killer could have murdered them both and made it look like an accident. But she did it this way. To get it done this way, she would have Had to want them dead for very personal reasons. To be willing to reach inside them like that. Revenge, maybe. Maybe you're looking for a lover or a spouse. Also, because of when they died in the middle of sex, it wasn't a coincidence. Emotions are a kind of channel for magic. Give it up a whoop. The path that can be used to get to you. She picked a time when they'd be together and be charged up with lust. She got samples to use as a focus. She planned it out in advance. You don't do that to strangers. Crap, Carmichael said, but this time it was more of an absent-minded curse than anything directed at me. Murphy glared at me. You keep saying she. He challenged me. Why the hell do you think that? I gestured toward the room, because you can't do something that bad without a whole lot of hate, I said. Women are better at hating than men. They can focus it better. Let it go better. Hell, witches are just plain meaner than wizards. This feels like feminine vengeance of some kind to me. But a man could have done it, Murphy said. Thank you for the follow. What do you mean I might make a good kindergarten teacher? Uh? Eh? Thank you for the hydrate. Why are the water bottles so big? Canadian, I'm reading to y'all. That's what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. I'm taking it you're enjoying yourself. Yeah, yeah. Bubbles. Always. I'm glad. Bubbles. Oh, see, this is why I'm not a teacher. I think I'd fail before I start. That they are. Alright, where was I? I'm like still at chapter 2. It's crazy. Yeah, this is a very I'm like barely at page 11. God damn. It's a very long book. Well, I hatched. Christ, you're a chauvinist pig, Tristan. It is something that only a woman could have done. Well, no. I don't think so. At least chapter 2 has been faster than you. Oh no. I scowled at them both, angry. I haven't really worked through the specifics of what I need to do to make somebody's heart explode. Murph, as soon as I have a occasion to, I'll be sure to let you know. When will you be able to tell me something? Murphy asked. I don't know. I held up a hand. Forestalling her next comment. Can't put a timer on this stuff. Murph. It just can't be done. I don't even know if I can do it at all, much less how long it will take. At $50 an hour, it better not be too long, Carmichael growled. Murphy glanced at him. She didn't exactly agree with him, but she didn't exactly slap him down either. I took the opportunity to take a few long breaths, calming myself down. I finally looked back at them. Okay, I asked. Who are they? The victims. You don't need to know that, Carmichael snapped. Run, Murphy said. I could really use some coffee. Carmichael turned to her. He wasn't tall, but he all but loomed over Murphy. Ah, come on, Murph. This guy's jerking your chain. You don't really think he's going to be able to tell you anything worth hearing, do you? The lurk mystic. Murphy regarded her partner's sweaty, beady-eyed face with a sort of frosty putter. Tough to pull off on someone 6 inches taller than she. No cream, 2 sugars. Damn it, Carmichael said. He shot me a cold glance, but didn't quite look at my eyes, then jammed his hands into his pants pocket. Stalked out of the room. Murphy followed him to the door, her feet silent, and shut it behind him. The sitting room immediately became darker, closer, with the grinning ghoul of its former chintzy intimacy dancing in the smell of the blood and the memory of the 2 bodies in the room. The woman's name was Jennifer Stanton. She worked for the Velvet Room. I whistled. The Velvet Room was a high-priced escort service run by a woman named Bianca. Bianca kept a flock of beautiful, charming, and witty women, pandering them to the richest men in the area for hundreds of dollars an hour. Bianca sold a kind of female company that most men only see on television and the movies. I also knew that she was a vampiress of considerable influence in the Never Never. She had power with a capital P. I tried to explain the Never Never to Murphy before. She didn't really comprehend it, but she understood that Bianca was as bad as vampires, who sometimes squabbled for territory. We both knew that if one of Bianca's girls was involved, the vampires must have been involved somehow, too. Murphy's cut, right to the point, was this part of Bianca's territorial deputy. No, I said, unless she's having it with a human sorcerer, a vampire, even a vamp sorcerer, couldn't have pulled off something like this outside of the Never Never. Could she be at odds with a human sorcerer? Murphy asked me. Possible, but it doesn't sound like her. He isn't that stupid. What I didn't tell Murphy was that the White Consul made sure that vampires who trifled with mortal practitioners never lived to brag about it. I don't talk to regular people about the White Consul. It just isn't done. Besides, I said, if a human wanted to take a shot at Bianca by hitting her girls, he'd be better off to kill the girl and leave the customer healthy, to let him spread the tale and scare off business. Murphy said. She wasn't convinced, but she made notes of what I had to say. Who was the man? I asked her. Murphy looked up at me for a moment, then said, Tommy Tom. I blinked at her to let her know she hadn't revealed the mystery of the ages. Who? Tommy Tom, she said. Johnny Marcone's bodyguard. Now it made more sense. Gentlemen, Johnny Marcone had been the thug to emerge on the top of the pile after the Vergazzi family had dissolved into internal strife. The police department saw Marcone as a mixed blessing. After years of merciless struggle and bloody exchanges with the Vergazzi gentlemen, Johnny tolerated no excuses in his organization, and he didn't like freelancers operating in his city, muggers, bank robbers, and drug dealers who were not a part of his organization somehow always seemed to get ratted out, turned in, or else simply went missing and weren't heard from again. Marcone was a civilizing influence on crime, and where he operated was more of a problem in terms of scale than ever before. An extremely shrewd businessman. He had a battery of lawyers working for him. They kept him fenced in the law behind a barricade of dispositions and papers and tape recording. The cops never said it, but sometimes it seemed like they were almost reluctant to chase him. Marcone was better than the alternative. Anarchy in the underworld. I remember hearing he had an enforcer. I said, I guess he doesn't anymore. Murphy shrugged. So it would seem. So what will you do next? Run down his hairstylist, Ingle? I guess. I'll talk to Bianca and to Marcone, but I can already tell you what they'll tell me. She flicked her notebook, closed and shook her head, irritated. I watched her for a minute. She looked tired. I told her so. I am tired, she replied. Tired of being looked at like I'm some sort of nutcase. Even Carmichael, my own partner, thinks I've gone over the edge in all of this. The rest of the station thinks so too, I asked her. Most of them just scowl and spin their index fingers around their temples. They think I'm not looking and file my reports without ever reading them. The rest are the ones who have run into something spooky out there, and they're scared shitless. They don't want to believe in anything they didn't see on Mr. Science when they were kids. How about you? Me? Murphy smiled. A curving of her lips. That was a vibrantly feminine expression. making her look entirely too pretty to be such a hard ass. The world's falling apart at the seams, Harry. I guess I just think people are pretty arrogant. Believe we've learned everything there is to know in the past century or so. What the hell? I can buy that we're just now starting to see the things around us in the dark again. It appeals to the cynic in me. I wish everyone thought like you do, I said, but cut down on my crank calls. Continue to smile at me, impish. But could you imagine a world where all the radio stations played ABBA? We shared a laugh. God, that room needed a laugh. Hey, Harry, Murphy said, grinning. I could see the wheels spinning in her head. Yeah. You said about being able to figure out how the killer did this. About how you're not sure you can do it. Yeah. I know it's bullshit. Why did you lie to me about it? I stiffened. Christ. She was good. Or maybe I'm just not much of a liar. Look, Murph, I said. There's some things you just don't do. Sometimes I don't want to get into the head of the slime I go after, either. But you do what needs to be done to finish the job. I know what you mean, Harry. No, I said shortly. You don't know. And she didn't. She didn't know about my past, or the white console, or the doom of the domicles hanging over my head. Most days, I could pretend I didn't know about it either. All the console needed now was an excuse. Just an excuse to find me guilty of violating one of the 7 laws of magic. And the doom would drop if I started putting together a recipe for murder spell. They found out about it. That might be all the excuse they needed. Murph, I told her, I can't try figuring the spell out. I can't go putting together the things I need to do it. You just don't understand. She glared at me, without looking at my eyes. I had never met anyone else who could pull that one off. Oh, I understand. I understand that I've got a killer loose that I can catch in the act. Understand that you know something that can help, or you can at least find out something. And I understand that if you dry up on me now, I'm tearing your card out of the department Rolodex and tossing it in the trash. Son of a bitch. I consulting for the department. Paid a lot of my bills. Okay. Most of my bills. I could sympathize with her. Give her the hydrate. I suppose if I was operating in the dark like she was, I'd be nervous as hell too. Murphy didn't know anything about spells, or rituals, or talismans, but she knew human hatred and violence all too well. It wasn't as though I was actually going to be doing any black magic. I told myself I was just going to be figuring out how it was done. There was a difference. I was helping police in an investigation Nothing more. Maybe the white consul would understand that. Hayata. Yeah, right. And maybe one of these days I'd go to an art museum and become well rounded. Murphy said the hug. A second later, she looked up at my eyes for a daring second before she turned away, her face tired and honest and proud. I need to know everything you can tell me. Harry, please. Classic lady in distress. For one of those liberated, professional women. You know exactly how to jerk my old-fashioned chains around. I gritted my teeth. Fine. I said, fine. I'll start on it tonight. Oh boy. The white consul is going to love this one. For that pet. Just have to make sure they didn't find out about it. Murphy nodded and let out a breath without looking at me. Then she said, let's get out of here, and walked toward the door. I didn't try to beat her to it. When we walked out, the uniform cops were still lazing around in the hall outside. Carmichael was nowhere to be seen. The guys from forensics were still there, standing around impatiently, waiting for us to come out. Then they gathered up their plastic bags and tweezers and lights and things and filed past us into the room. Murphy was brushing at her windblown hair with her hand while we waited for the ancient elevator to take its sweet time getting up to the 7th floor. She was wearing a gold watch, which reminded me. Oh hey, I asked her. What time is it? She checked. 2:25, why? I breathed out a curse and turned for the stairs. I'm late for an appointment. I fairly flew down the stairs. I've had a lot of practice at them, after all, and I hit the lobby at a jog. I managed to dodge a porter coming through the front doors with an armload of luggage and swung out the sidewalk at a lope. I have long legs that eat a lot of ground. I was running into the wind, my black duster billowing out behind me. With several blocks to my building, and after covering half of them, it slowed to a walk. I didn't want to arrive at my appointment with Monica, missing man puffing like a bellows, with my hair windblown and my face streaming sweat. Blame it on being out of shape from an inactive winter season when I was breathing hard. It occupied enough of my attention that I didn't see the dark blue Cadillac until it had pulled up beside me, and a rather large man stepped out of it onto the sidewalk in front of me. He had bright red hair, a thick neck. His face looked like someone had smashed it flat with a board repeatedly when he was a baby, except for his jutting eyebrows. He had narrow little blue eyes They got nearer as I sized him up. I stopped, backed away, then turned around. Two more men, both of them as tall as me, a good deal heavier, were slowing down from their own jog. They had apparently been following me. They looked annoyed. One was limping slightly. The other wore a buzz cut that had been spiked up straight with some kind of styling gel. I felt like I was in high school again, surrounded by bullying members of the football team. Can I help you, gentlemen? I asked. I looked around for a cop. They were all over the Madison. I suppose everyone likes to gawk. Get in the car, the one in front of me said. One of the others opened the rear door. I like to walk. Good for my heart. If you don't get in the car, it isn't going to be good for your legs, the man growled. A voice came from inside the car. "Mr. Hendricks, please be more polite." Addressed him. "Would you join me for a moment? I'd hoped to give you a lift back to your office, but your abrupt exit made it somewhat problematic. Perhaps you will allow me to convey you the rest of the way." I leaned down to look into the back seat. A man of a handsome and unassuming feature, dressed in a casual sports jacket and Levi's, regarded me with a... "And you would be?" I asked him. He smiled widened, and I swear it made his eyes twinkle. "My name is John." Oh god, that scared me. Oh god. Not gonna lie, that's fucking startled me. Oh. Oh. Guys, on above us. Alright, Blue Blue. Make sure to take care. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Okay? My name is John Marcone. I would like to discuss business with you. I stared at him for a moment, and then my eyes slid aside to the very large and very overdeveloped Mr. Hendrick. The man growled under his breath, and it sounded like Cujo. Just before he jumped at the woman in the car, I didn't feel like duking it out with Cujo and his two buddies. I got into the back of the caddy with gentleman Johnny Marco. It was turning out to be a very busy day, and I was still late for my appointment. And that is chapter. Oh boy, 2 chapters in 2 hours. That is quite a read. I'm gonna stretch. Oh. Right. So I'm gonna take this time and go get another coffee, and I will be right back. All right, we back. We had left off on chapter 3. mm-hmm. Gentleman Johnny Marcone didn't look like the sort of man who would have my legs broken or my jaw wired shut. Echo. Oh, he's getting hit by all types of directions right now. His salt and pepper hair was cut short. There were lines from the sun smiling etched into the corner of his eyes. His eyes were the green of well-worn dollar bills. He more like a college football coach, good-looking and athletic and enthusiastic. The impression was reinforced by the men. Give it the hydrate. Fine. Fine. The impression was reinforced by the men he kept with him. Uja Hendricks looked like an all-pro player. He had been ousted for extreme unnecessary roughness. Ujo got in the car again, glowered at me in the forward. Big words, big words, big words. Then pulled out into the street, driving slowly toward my office. Steering wheel looked tiny and delicate in his huge hands. I made a mental note. Do not let Cujo put his hands around your throat. You do not want to be strangled by Cujo. Or hand. It looked almost like one of them could manage it. The radio was playing. As I got into the car, it felt up. Ah, see, he does not do well with modern technology. Remember this. Squealing feedback out over the speakers. Hendrik scowled. Thought about it for a second. Maybe he had to relay the message through his second brain or something. Then he reached out to the and fiddled with the knobs before finally turning the radio off. At this rate, I hoped the car wouldn't make it all the way to the office. Mr. Dresden, Marcone said, smiling. I understand that you worked for the police department from time to time. He threw the occasional tidbit my way. I agreed. Hey, Hendrix, you should really wear your seatbelt. Statistics say you're 50 or 60% safer. Cujo growled at me in the rearview mirror again. I beamed at him. Smiling always seemed to annoy people more than actually insulting them. Or maybe I just have an annoying smile. Marcone seemed somewhat put off by my attitude. Maybe I was supposed to be holding my hat in my hand. I had never really liked Francis Ford Coppola. I didn't have a godfather. I do have a godmother. She is, inevitably, perhaps, a fairy. But that's another story. Mr. Dresden, he said, how much would it cost to retain your services? That made me wary. What would someone like Marcone want from me? My standard fee is $50 an hour plus travel expenses, I told him. It can vary depending on what you need done. Marcone nodded along with my sentence, as if encouraging me to speak. He wrinkled up his face as if carefully considering what he would say, and taking my well-being into account, a grandfatherly concern. Much would it set me back to have you not investigate something? You want to pay me to not to do something? Let's say I pay you your standard fee. It comes out to $1,400 a day, right? $1,200 actually, I corrected him. He beamed at me. An honest man is a rare treasure. $1,200 a day. Let's say I pay you for 2 weeks worth of work, Mr. Dresden. You take some time off. Go catch a few movies. Get some extra sleep. That sort of thing. I eyed him. For more than $1,000 a day, you want me to do nothing? Mr. Dresden, Marcone smiled. Nothing at all. Just relax. Put your feet up and stay out of Detective Murphy's way. Marcone didn't want me looking into Tommy Tom's murder. Interesting. I looked out the window and squinted my eyes, as though thinking about it. I got the money with me, Marcone said. Cash on the spot. I'll trust you to fulfill your end of the deal, Mr. Dresden. You come highly recommended for your honesty. I don't know, John. Kinda busy to be accepting any more accounts right now. Car was almost to my office building. Car door was still unlocked. I hadn't worn my seatbelt either, just in case I needed to throw the door open and jump out. See how I think of head? It's that wizardly intellect, paranoia. Marcone's smile faltered. His expressions became earnest. Mr. Dresden, I am quite eager to establish a positive working relationship here. If it's the money, I can offer you more. Let's say double your usual fee. He stepped. He's held his hands in front of him as he talked. Half turning toward me, my God, I kept expecting him to tell me to go out there and win one for the skipper. He smiled. How does that sound? It isn't the money, John, I told him. I lazily locked my eyes onto his. I just don't think it's going to work out. To my surprise, he didn't look away. Those who deal in magic learn to see the world in a slightly different light than anyone else. You gain a perspective he had never considered before. A way of thinking that would just never occur to you without exposure. Things a wizard sees in you. You look into someone's eyes, you see them in that other light, and for just a second, you see you in the same way. Marcone and I looked at one another. He was a soldier, a warrior, behind that relaxed smile and fatherly manner. He was going to get what he wanted. He was going to get it in the most efficient way possible. He was a dedicated man, dedicated to his goal, dedicated to his people. He never let fear affect him. He made a living on human misery and suffering, peddling in drugs and flesh and stolen goods. But he took steps to minimize that suffering because it was simply the most efficient means of running his business. He was furious over Tommy Tom's death, a cold and practical kind of fury that his rightful dominion had been invaded, challenged. He intended to find those responsible and deal with them in his own way. He didn't want the police interfering. He had killed before and would again, and it would all mean nothing more to him than a business transaction, than paying for groceries in the checkout line. It was a dry and cool place inside Gentleman Johnny Marcone, except for one dim corner there, hidden away from his everyday thoughts. There lurked a secret shame. I couldn't quite see what it was, but I knew that somewhere in the past there was something that he would give anything to undo, would spill blood to erase. It was from that dark place that he drew his resolve, his strength. That was the way I saw him when I looked inside, past all his pretenses and defenses, and I was, on some instinctual level, certain that he had been aware of what I would see if I looked, that he had deliberately met my gaze, knowing what he would give away. That was his purpose, getting me alone. He wanted to take a peek at my soul. He wanted to see what sort of man I was. When I look into someone's eyes, into their soul, their innermost being, they could see mine turn. Things I had done, the things I was willing to do, things I was capable of doing. Most people who did got really pale, at least. One woman had passed out entirely, didn't know what they saw when they looked in there. It wasn't a place I poked around much. What kind of book did I pick? You know, this was a suggestion, suggestions were open, you guys. Why? What's up? What's wrong with the book? It is it interesting? Yeah. It is Stormfront. It's a series book. So this is book number 1. Also, you didn't hear the murder sex scene in the beginning? There was a murder sex scene in the beginning. With the panties.
Panda.
Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow. Yep, he did want him alone though. It came highly recommended by War. So hmm I mean, it is dark. Considering that a lot of you wanted me to read frickin' 50 Shades of Grey. I don't think I had access to that book though. War gave me access to Stormfront. For the most part. Well, we'll see. Well, we'll see at the end of this if what y'all think and take a vote on if we should continue this for like a second stream or if y'all want to do like a different book or whatnot. Yeah. Mhm. Any book. Well, someone did. I know, like Zozo was saying, I thought you were gonna read the dictionary. I'm like, hey, yo. Like, just words. Words. Okay. Where did I leave off? John Marcone wasn't like the other people who had seen my soul. He didn't even blink an eye. He just looked and assessed. After the moment had passed, he nodded at me, though he understood something. I got the uncomfortable impression that he had duped me. He had found out more about me than I had about him. The first thing I felt was anger. Anger at being manipulated. Anger that he should presume his soul gaze upon me. Just a second later, I felt scared to death of this man. My mouse died. There we go. And looked on the soul, and it had been as solid and barren as a stainless steel refrigerator. It was more than unsettling. He was strong inside, savage and merciless, without being cruel. He had a tiger's soul. All right then, he said smoothly, and as though nothing had happened. I won't try to force my offer on you. Then. The car was slowing down. It approached my building, and Hendrix pulled over in front of it. Well, let me offer you some advice. He had dropped the father talking to son act, spoke in a calm and patient voice. If you don't charge for it, thank God for wisecracks. I was too rattled to have said anything intelligent. Marcone almost smiled. Think you'll be happier if you come down with the flu for a few days. This business that Detective Murphy has asked you to look into doesn't need to be dragged out into the light. You won't like what you see. It's on my side of the fence. Just let me deal with it, and it won't ever trouble you. Are you threatening me? I asked him. I didn't think he was, but I didn't want him to know that. I would have helped if my voice hadn't been shaking. No, he said frankly. I have too much respect for you to resort to something like that. They say you're the real thing, Mr. Dresden, a real magus. They also say I'm nutty as a fruitcake. I chose which I listened to very carefully. Marcone said, think about what I've said, Mr. Dresden. I do not think our respective lines of work need overlap often. I would as soon not make an enemy of you over this matter. I clenched my jaw over my fear and spat words out at him quick and hard. You don't want to make an enemy of me, Marcone? That wouldn't be smart. That wouldn't be smart at all. He narrowed his eyes at me, lazy and relaxed. He could meet my eyes. By then, without fear, he had taken a measure of one another. It would not happen in such a way again. You really should try to be more polite, Mr. Dresden, he said. It's good for business. I didn't give him an answer to that. I didn't have one that wouldn't sound frightened or stupidly macho. Instead, I told him, if you ever lose your car keys, give me a call. Don't try offering me money or threats again. Thanks for the ride. He watched me, his expression never changing. As I got out of the car and shut the door, Hendrix pulled out and drove away after giving me one last dirty look. I had soul gazed on several people before. It wasn't the sort of thing you forgot. I'd never run into someone like that, someone so cool and controlled. Even the other practitioners I had met gazes with had not been that way. None of them had simply assessed me like a column of numbers, filed it away for reference to equations. Stuck my hands in the pockets of my duster and shivered as the wind hit me. I was a wizard, throwing around real magic, I reminded myself. I was not afraid of big men and big cars. I do not get rattled by corpses, blasted from life by magic more intense than anything I could manage. Really, honest. Those dollar bill colored eyes, backed by that cool and nearly passionless soul, had me shaking as I took the stairs back up to my office. I'd been stupid, yet surprised me, and the sudden intimacy of the soul gaze had startled and frightened me, all added together, had caused me to fall apart. Throwing threats at him like a frightened school kid, Marcone was a predator. He practically smelled my fear. He got to thinking I was weak. I had a feeling that polite smile and fatherly facade would vanish as thoroughly and as quickly as it had appeared. What a rotten first impression. Oh well. At least I was going to be on time for my appointment. That is end of chapter 3. Monica, no last name, standing outside of my office when I got there. Writing on the back of the note I had left taped to my door. I walked toward her, but she was too intent upon her writing to look up. She was a good looking woman in her mid 30 something, ash blonde hair that I thought must be natural after a morbid and involuntary memory of the dead woman's dye job. Her makeup was tasteful and well applied. Her face was fair, friendly, with enough roundness of cheek to look fresh faced and young, enough fullness of mouth to look very feminine. She was wearing a long full skirt of palest yellow with brown riding boots, wrist white blouse, an expensive looking green cardigan over it. To ward off the chill of early spring, she had to be in good shape to pull off a color combination like that. And she did. You wanted Dr. Seuss? What do you kidding? I am not good. That's a lot. Overall, it was a naggingly familiar look. Something like Annette Funicello or Barbara Billingsley. Maybe wholesome and all American. The face was uh-oh. Monica? I asked. I put on my most innocent and friendly smile. She blinked at me, goddamn, as I approached. Oh, are you, Harry? I smiled and offered her my hand. Very dressed up, ma'am, that's me. She took my hand after a tiny pause, kept her eyes firmly focused on my chest. At this point, I was just as glad to be dealing with someone who was too nervous to risk looking at my eyes. I gave her a firm but gentle handshake and let go of her, rushing past her, unlocked the office door, opened it up. I apologized for being late. I got a call from the police that I had to look into. You did? She asked. You mean the police? She waved her fingers. Instead of finishing the sentence, and entered when I held the door open for her. Sometimes I nodded. They run into something and want my take on it. What sort of thing? I shrugged and swallowed. Thought of the corpses at the Madison and felt green. When I looked up at Monica, she was studying my face, chewing on her lip nervously. She hurriedly averted her gaze. Can I get you some coffee? I asked her. I shut the door behind us, flicked on the lights. Oh, no, thank you, I'm fine. She stood there, looking at my box of discarded paperbacks and holding her purse over her tummy with both hands. I thought she might scream if I said boo, so I made sure to move carefully and slowly, making myself a cup of instant coffee. I breathed it in and out, going through the familiar motion till I had calmed down from my encounter with Marcone. The time was done, so was my coffee. I went to my desk and invited her to have a seat, one of the two chairs across from me. Okay, Monica, then, what can I do for you today? Well, told you that my husband was. She nodded at me, gesturing. Missing, I supplied. Yes, she said with an exhalation of almost relief. He's not mysteriously missing or anything. He's gone. He flushed and stammered, like he just packed up a few things and left, but he didn't say anything to anyone. And he hasn't showed up again. I'm concerned about him. Uh-huh, I said. How long has he been gone? This is the third day, she said. I nodded. There must be some reason why you're coming to me, rather than a private investigator or the police. He blushed again. He had a good face for blush. Fair skin, that colored girlishly. It was quite fashionable, really. Yes, he had been interested in magic. Yes, he had been buying books on it in the religion section at the bookstore. Not like those Dungeon and Dragon games, the real thing. He bought some of those tarot cards. He pronounced it like carrot. Amateurs. And you think his disappearance might have had something to do with this? Interest? I'm not sure, he confessed. But maybe. He was very upset. He had just lost his job, was under a lot of pressure. I'm worried about him. That whoever found him, I need to be able to talk to him about all this stuff. She took a deep breath, as if the effort of completing so many sentences without a single had tired her. I'm still not clear on this. Why me? Why not the police? Her knuckles whitened on her purse. He packed a bag, Mr. Dresden. I think the police will just assume he left his wife and his children. He won't really look. But he didn't. He's not like that. He only wants to make a good life for us. Really, that's all he wants. I frowned at her, nervous that maybe hubby has run out on you after all. Here. Even so, I said, why come to me? Why not a private investigator? I know a reliable man if you need. Does he know about, he gestured fitfully, about magic? Monica nodded. Think it might be important. I mean, I don't know, but I think it might. Where did he work? I asked her. While I spoke, I got a pad of paper out of my pocket and jotted down a few notes. Silvercoat told me. They're a trading company. They locate good markets for products and advise companies where they can best spend their money. I said. What is his name, Monica? She swallowed. I saw her twitching, trying to think of something to tell me other than his real name, George. Supplied at last. I looked up at her. She was staring fiercely down at her hand. Monica, I said. I know this must be really hard for you, believe me, ma'am. There are plenty of people who are nervous when they come into my office. But please, hear me out. I am not out to hurt you or anyone else. What I do to help people. Just as someone with the right skills could use your names against you, but I'm not like that. I borrowed a line from Johnny Marcone. It isn't good business. Gave a nervous little laugh. I feel so silly, he confessed, but there's so many things that I've heard about. Wizard. I see. Put my pencil down, stippled my fingers in wizardly fashion. The woman was nervous and had certain expectations. I might ease her fears a little if I fulfilled some of them. Tried not to look over her shoulder at the calendar I had hanging on the wall. The red circle around the 15th of the last month. Late rent. Need money. Even with the fee from today and what I would make in the future, it would take the city forever to pay up. Besides, I could never resist going to the aid of a lady in distress, even if she wasn't completely 100% sure that she wanted to be rescued by me. Monica, I told her, there are powers in the universe that most people don't even know about. Powers that we still don't fully understand. The men and women who work with these powers see things in a different light than regular people. Come to understand things in a slightly different way. It sets them apart. Sometimes it breeds unwarranted suspicion and fear. I know you've read books and seen movies about how horrible people like me are. That whole suffer, not a witch to live. A part of the Old Testament hasn't made things all roses, but we really aren't any different from anyone else. Gave her my best smile. I want to help you, but if I'm going to do that, you're going to have to give me a little trust. I promise. Give you my word that I won't disappoint you. I saw her take this in and chew on it for a while staring down at her hand. Victor, said at last. Victor sells. All right, I said, picking up my pencil and duly noting it. Is there any place you might have gone that you got offhand? She nodded. The lake house. We have a house down by. She waved her hand. Lake? He beamed at me, and I reminded myself to be patient. In Lake Providence, over the state line, around Lake Michigan. It's beautiful up there in the autumn. Okay then, are you aware of any friends might have run off to sea, family he might have visited, anything like that? Oh, Victor wasn't on speaking terms with his family. I never knew why. He didn't talk about them, really. He'd been married for 10 years and he never once spoke to them. Okay, I said, noting that down. Friends dead? She fretted her lip, a gesture that seemed familiar to her. Not really. He was friends with his boss and some people at work, but after he was fired, I said, I understand. Continued writing things down, drawing bold lines between thoughts, separate them. I spilled over onto the next page before I was finished writing down the facts, my observations about Monica. I like to be thorough about these kinds of things. Well, Mr. Dresden, she asked, can you help me? I looked over the page and nodded. I think so, Monica. If possible, I like to see things your husband collected, witch books, and so on. Would help. I had a picture of him, too. I might like to take a look around your house at Lake Providence. Would that be alright? Of course, she said. She seemed relieved, but at the same time even more nervous than before. I noted down the address, the lake house, and brief directions. You're aware of my fees, I asked her. I'm not cheap. Might be less costly for you to hire someone else. You've got quite a bit of savings. Mr. Dresden, she told me, not worried about the money. That seemed an odd statement from her at the time, out of tune with her generally nervous manner. Well then, I told her, I charge $50 an hour, plus expenses. I'll send you an itemized list of what I do, so you'll have an idea of what I'm working on. My retainer is customary. I'm not going to guarantee that I work exclusively on your case. I try to handle each of my customers with respect and courtesy. So I can put any one of them before another. She nodded. Emphatically, reached into her purse. She drew out a white envelope and passed it over to me. There's $500 inside, she told me. Is that enough for now? Cha-ching. $500 would take care of last month's rent and a good bit of this month's too. I could get into this bit with nervous clients wanting to preserve the anonymity. Oh god, I can't say that word. Anonymity? I swear I hate that word. Of their checking accounts from my supposed sorcerer's mind. Cash always spends. This'll be fine. Yes, I told her. I tried not to fondle the envelope. At least I wasn't crass enough to dump the money on my desk and count it out. She drew out another envelope. He took most of his things with him, she said. At least I couldn't find them where he usually keeps them. But I did find this. There was something in the envelope. Give her the hip, yes. Making a bulge, an amulet, ring, or charm of some kind. I was betting. A third envelope came out of her purse. The woman must be compulsively well organized. Picture of him and my phone number inside. Thank you, Mr. Dresden. When will you call? As soon as I know something, I told her. Probably by tomorrow afternoon or Saturday morning. Sound good? She almost looked at my eyes, caught herself, and smiled directly at my nose. Yes. Yes, thank you so much for your. He glanced up at the wall. I'll look at the time. I need to go. School's almost. Lie down now. She closed her teeth over her words and flushed again, as though embarrassed that she had let such an important fact about her slip out. I'll do whatever I can, ma'am, I assured her, rising, walking her to the door. Thank you for your business. I'll be in touch soon. She said her goodbyes, never looking me in the face, let out the door. I shut it behind her and went back to the envelopes. First, the money. It was all in 50s, which always look new, even when they're years old. They get so little circulation. There were 10 of them. I put them in my wallet, trashed the envelope. The envelope with the photo in it was next. I took it out and regarded a picture of Monica and a man of lean and handsome features. My high cliff with the wide forehead and shaggy eyebrows that his handsomeness off onto a rather eccentric angle. His smile was whiter than white. His skin had a smooth, dark tan. As someone who spends a lot of time in the sun, boating maybe. It was a sharp contrast against Monica's paleness. Victor Sells, I assume. Has been forever. The phone number was written on a plain white index card that had been neatly trimmed down, put inside the envelope. There was no name or area code, just a 7-digit number. Got out my cross listing directory and looked it up. I noted that down as well. Wondered what the woman had expected to accomplish by only giving out first names, when she had been going to hand me a dozen other ways of finding out. In any case, it only goes to show that people are funny when they're nervous about something. They say screwy things, make odd choices, which in retrospect, they feel amazingly foolish for making, but I have to be careful. Say anything to rub that in. When I spoke to her again, I trashed the second envelope and opened the last one, turning it upside down over my desk. Brown husk of a head, dead, dried scorpion, glistening with some sort of preservative glaze, clicked down onto my desk. Supple braided leather cord led off from a ring set through the base of its so that if it was worn, it would hang head down, tail up, rolled over the dried body to point at the ground. I shuddered. Scorpions were symbolically powerful in certain circles of belief. Weren't usually symbols of anything good or wholesome either. A lot of petty, mean spells could be focused around a little talisman like that. If you wore it next to your skin, as such things are supposed to be warm, the prickly legs of the thing would be a constant poking, agitation, a continual reminder that it was there. Dried stinger, its tip might actually pierce the skin of anyone who tried to give the wearer a hug. Its crab-like pincer catch in a man's chest hair or scratch at the curves of a woman's breast. Nasty, unpleasant thing, not evil as such. But sure as hell weren't likely to do happy, shiny things with magic with such an item around your neck. Maybe Victor's cells had gotten involved in something real, something that had absorbed his attention. The art could do that to a person, particularly the darker aspects of it. If you had turned. Dad, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. We are reading Stormfront. If he had turned to it in despair after losing his job, maybe that would explain his sudden absence from his office. A lot of sorcerers, or wannabe sorcerers, we are reading. Mm. How are you doing tonight? You are with sorcerers, or wannabe sorcerers, secluded themselves in the belief that isolation would increase their ability to focus on their magic. It didn't, but it did make it easier for a weak or untrained mind to avoid distractions. Or maybe it wasn't even a true talisman. Maybe it was just a curiosity or a souvenir, some visit to the Southwest. There wasn't any way for me to tell if it was indeed a device used to improve the focus and direction of magical energy, sort of actually using it to attempt a spell. I really didn't want using such a dubious article for a variety of good reasons. I would have keep this little beauty in mind. I tried to run this man down. It might well mean nothing. On the other hand, it might not. I looked up at the clock, 3:15. It was time to check with the local morgues to see if they had turned up any likely John Does. Who knew? My search might be over before the day's end, and then to get to the bank to deposit my money, wire off a check to my landlord. I got out my phone book and started calling up the hospitals. Not really my routine line of work, but not difficult either, except for the standard problem I had using the telephone: static, line noise, other people's conversation being louder than mine. If something can go wrong, it will. Do I sound sad? Do I? That's just how. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for the bubble, Suzu. Hey. Mm. I saw that, son. Ah. For the hydrate. Now we're like so close to chapter 5. Ah, fine. I'll get some water just for you, Suzu. Coffee. I did get water though. What's Suzu? What's Suzu? Or like at the last paragraph of chapter 4 too. It's a very long. Hello. Once I thought in a stretch. Alright. You should like literally see how big I have this file just to be able to read it, Suzu. Because I am blind. Hmm. Once I thought and saw something out of the corner of my eye, a twitch of motion from the dried scorpion sat on my desk. Uh-oh. Live. I blinked and stared at it. It didn't move. Cautiously, I extended my senses toward it like an invisible hand, feeling about for any traces of enchantment, magical energy. Nothing. It was as dry of enchantment as it was of life. Fun fact, Jim Butcher was actually dared into his career by his college English. Oh, fine. That's a good book so far. Never let it be said that Harry Dustin is afraid of a dried dead bug. Creepy or not, it wasn't going to let it ruin my concentration. So I scooped it up with the corner of the phone book, popped it into the middle of the drawer of the desk. Out of sight, out of mind. I have a problem with creepy, dead, poisonous things. Sue me. And that is. I guess we can go for one. But a good. Wait for everyone to come from.
Oh my God, that's the funky shit.
Hey yo! My Chew! Thank you for the raid! Welcome, Raiders! How was your stream? How was your stream? What were you guys up to? What were you doing? Welcome, welcome. I am Panda, a Panda demon with a coffee problem, and this is my anxiety corner. We are good. We are doing much requested reading stream. We are reading Stormfront. We are currently about to start chapter 5. You're doing a charity stream and hanging out in VR chat. Nice. Yeah, we are doing the much wanted reading stream goal that everyone has been wanting for over a year. So welcome everyone. Feel free to go relax, get some water, get some food, get some rest. Yeah, the book we are currently reading is about a wizard. Wizard crime. Murder. Detective. Yeah. Bubbles. making sure everyone's back from the ad break that we had. Alright, McAnally's is a pub a few blocks from my office. I go there when I'm feeling stressed, or when I have a few extra bucks to spend on a nice dinner. A lot of us fringe types do. Mac, the pub's owner, is used to wizards and all the problems that come along with it. There aren't any video games at McAnally. There's no televisions or expensive computer trivia game. There isn't even a jukebox. Mac keeps a player piano instead. It's less likely to go haywire around us. I say pub in all the best senses of the word. When you walk in, you take several steps down into a room with a deadly combination of a low clearance and ceiling fan. If you're tall like me, you walk carefully in McAnally. There are 13 stools at the bar and 13 tables in the room. 13 windows set up high on the wall in order to be above ground level. Let some light from the street into the place. 13 mirrors on the walls cast back reflections of the patrons in dim detail and give the illusion of more space. 13 wooden columns, carved like likenesses from folk tales and legends of the old world, make it difficult to walk around the place without weaving a circuitous route. They also quite intentionally break up the flow of random energies, spelling to one degree or another the auras that gather around Brody, grumpy, keeping them from manifesting in unintentional and colorful way. The colors are all muted, earth browns and sea greens. The first time I entered McAnally, I felt like a wolf returning to an old favorite den. Mac makes his own beer, ale really, and it's the best stuff in the city. His food is cooked on a wood-burning stove. You can damn well walk your own self over to the bar to pick up your order when it's ready, according to Mac. My sort of place. Since the calls to the morgues had turned up nothing, I kept a few bills out of Monica Sell's retainer. I took myself to McAnally's. After the kind of days I'd had, I deserved some of Mac's ale and someone else's cooking. After the kind of day, going to be a long night too. Once I went home and started trying to figure out how whoever it was had pulled off the death spell used on Johnny Marcone's hatchet man, Tommy Tom, and his girlfriend, Jennifer Stan. Dresden, Mac greeted me. When I sat down at the bar, the dim, comfortable room was empty. But for a pair of men I recognized by sight at a back table, playing chess. Mac is a tall, almost gangly man of intermediate age, though there's a sense to him, speaks of enough wisdom and strength that I wouldn't venture. May I, little one? He was less than 50. He was squinty eyes and a smile that is rare, mischievous when it manifests. Mac never says much, but when he does, it's almost always worth listening to. Hey there, Mac, I hailed him. Been one hell of a day. Give me a steak sandwich, fries, and milk. Mac said. He opened a ball of his and began to pour it warm, staring past me into the middle distance. He does that with everyone. Considering his clientele, I don't blame him. I wouldn't chance looking them in the face either. You hear about what happened at the Madison? Confirmed. Nasty business. Such an inane comment apparently didn't merit even a grunted reply. I set my drink out and turned to the stove behind the bar, picking the wood and raking it back and forth to provide even heating for it. I picked up a dumb newspaper nearby and scanned the headline. Hey, look at this. Another 3i rampage. Jesus, this stuff is worse than crack. Article detailed the virtual demolition of a neighborhood grocery store by a pair of 3i junkies who were convinced that the place was destined to explode. Wanted to beat destiny to the punch. You ever seen anything like this? Mac shook his head. They say the stuff gives you the third sight. I said, reading the article. Those junkies had been admitted to the hospital and were in critical condition after collapsing at the scene. You know what? Mac looked back at me from the stove while he cooked. I don't think that's possible. What a bunch of crap. Trying to sell these poor kids on the idea that they can imagine. Mac nodded at me. If it was serious stuff, the department would have already called me by now. Mac shrugged, turning back to the stove. Then he squinted up and peered into the dim reflection of the mirror behind me. Harry, he said, you were followed. I'd been too tense for too much of the day to avoid feeling my shoulders constrict in a sudden twinge. I put both hands around my mug and brought a few phrases of quasi-Latin to mind. Never hurt to be ready to defend myself in case someone was intending to hurt me. I watched someone approach, a dim shape in the reflection cast by the ancient worn mirror. Mac went on, cooking, unperturbed. Nothing much, perturbed Mac. I smelled her perfume before I turned around. Why, Miss Rodriguez, I said. It's always pleasant to see you. He came to an abrupt stop, a couple of paces from me, apparently concerted. One of the advantages of being a wizard that people always attribute anything you do to magic. If no other immediate explanation leaps to mind. Probably wouldn't think about her perfume giving her identity away, when she could assign my mysterious, blind identification of her to my mystical power. Come on, I told her. Sit down. I'll get you a drink while I refuse to tell you anything. Harry, he admonished me. You don't know I'm here on business. She sat down on the bar stool next to me. She was a woman of average height, striking dark beauty, wearing a crisp business jacket and skirt. Those pumps, her dark, straight hair, turned in a neat cut that ended at the nape of her neck. It was parted off, the dark skin of her forehead, emphasizing the lazy appeal of a dark eye. Susan. You wouldn't be in this place if you weren't. Did you have a good time in Branson? Susan Rodriguez was a reporter for the Chicago Arcade, a yellow magazine that covered all sorts of supernatural and paranormal events throughout the Midwest. Usually the events they covered weren't much better than Monkey Man seen with Elvis, his love child, or JFK's mutant ghost abducts shape-shifting Girl Scout. But once in a great while, the Arcane covered something that was real, like the unseelie incursion of 1994, when the entire city of Milwaukee had simply vanished for 2 hours. Gone. Government satellite photos showed the river valley covered with trees and empty of life or human habitation. All communication ceased. A few hours later, there it was, back again. And no one in the city itself the wiser. It had also been hanging around my investigation in Branson the previous. He had been tracking me ever since, interviewing me for a feature story right after I'd opened up my business. I had to hand it to her. He had instincts and enough curiosity to get her into 10 kinds of trouble. He had tricked me into meeting her eyes at the conclusion of our first interview. An eager young reporter investigating an angle on her interviewee. He was the one who had fainted after we'd sold Kate. She smirked at me, liked her smile. It did interesting things to her lips, and hers were already attractive. You should have stayed around for the show. He said it was pretty impressive. She put her purse on the bar, slid up onto the stool beside me. No thanks, I told her. Pretty sure it wasn't for me. My editor loved the coverage. He's convinced it's going to win an award of some kind. I can see it now, I told her. Mysterious visions haunt drug-using country star. Real hard-hitting paranormal journalism. That. I glanced at her. She met my eyes without fear. She didn't let me see. My guide had ruffled her. I heard you got called in by the SI director today, she told me. He leaned toward me, enough that a glance down would have afforded an interesting angle to the V of her white shirt. I'd love to hear. Tell me about this one, Harry. Worked a smile at me that promised things. I almost smiled back at her. Sorry, I told her. I have a standard non-disclosure agreement with the city. Something off the record then. Yes. Rumor has it that these killings were pretty sensational. Can I help you, Susan? I told her. Well, the horses couldn't drag it out of me, etc. Just a hint, she pressed. A word of comment. Something shared between two people who are very attracted to one another. Which two people would that be? She put an elbow on the counter and propped her chin in her hand, studying me through narrowed eyes and thick long lips. One of the things that appealed to me about her was that even though she used her charm and femininity relentlessly in pursuit of her stories, she had no concept of just how attractive she really was. I had seen that when I looked within her last year. Harry dressed in, she said. You're a thoroughly maddening man. Her eyes narrowed a bit further. Didn't look down my blouse even once, did you? Cues. I took a sip of my ale and beckoned Mac to pour her one as well. He did. Guilty. Most men are off balance by now, she complained. What does it take with you anyways, Preston? I am pure of heart and mind, I told her. I cannot be corrupted. She stared at me in frustration for a moment. Then she tilted back her head to laugh. She had a good laugh too, throaty and rich. I did look down at her chest when she did that, just for a second. A pure heart and mind only takes you so far. Sooner or later, the hormones have their say too. I mean, I'm not a teenager or anything anymore. But I'm not exactly an expert in things like this either. Call it an overwhelming interest in my professional career. But I've never had much time for dating or the fair sex in general. When I have, it hasn't turned out too well. Susan was a known quantity. She was attractive, bright, appealing. Her motivations were clear and simple. She was honest in pursuing them. She flirted with me because she wanted information. And as much as because she thought I was attractive, sometimes she got it. Sometimes she didn't. This one was way too hot for Susan or the arcane to touch. And if Murphy heard I tipped someone off about what had happened, she'd have my heart between two pieces of bread for lunch. I'll tell you what, Harry, she said, about if I ask some questions, you just answer yes or no. No, I said promptly. Damn it. I'm a poor liar. It didn't take a reporter with Susan's brains to tell it. Her eyes glittered. Cheerfully malicious ambition. Was Tommy Tom murdered by a paranormal being or means? No, I said again, stubbornly. No, he wasn't, Susan asked. Or no, it wasn't a paranormal being. Glanced at Mac, and though to appeal for help. Mac ignored me. Mac doesn't take sides. Mac is wise. No. I'm not going to answer questions, I said. Do the police have any leads? Any suspect? No. Are you a suspect yourself, Harry? Disturbing thought? No, I said, exasperated Susan. Would you mind having dinner with me Saturday night? No, I blinked at her. What? She smiled at me, leaned over, kissed me on the cheek. Her lips, which I'd admired so much, felt very, very nice. Super. She said, I'll pick you up at your place. Say around 9. Did I just miss something? I asked her. She nodded, dark eyes, sparkling with humor. I'm going to take you to a fantastic dinner. Have you ever eaten at the pump room? At the Ambassador East? I shook my head. Steaks you wouldn't believe, she assured me. The most romantic atmosphere, jackets and ties required. Can you manage? Yes, I said, carefully. This is the answer to the question of whether or not I'll go out with you, right? No, Susan said with a smile. That was the answer I tricked out of you, so you're stuck there. Just want to make sure you own something besides jeans and button-down western. Oh yes, I said. Super, she repeated, kissed me on the cheek once more. She stood up and gathered her purse. Saturday. She drew back and worked her smirky little smile at me. It was a killer, sultry, and appealing. I'll be there. The bell's on. She turned and walked out. Sort of turned to stare after her. My jaw slid off the bar, sighed it, and landed on the floor. Had I just agreed to a date or an interrogation session? Probably both, I muttered. Max slapped my steak sandwich and fries down in front of me. I put down some money, morosely. He made change. He's going to do nothing but try to trick information out of me that I shouldn't be giving her. Mac, I said. Ah, Mac agreed. Why did I say it? Mac shrugged. He's pretty, I said. Smart, sexy. Ah. Any red-blooded man would have done the same thing. Max snorted. Well, maybe not you. Max smiled a bit. Qualified. Still. It's going to make trouble for me. Must be crazy to go for someone like that. Picked up my sandwich and sighed. Dumb, Max said. I just said she was smart, Mac. Mac's face flickered into that smile, and it made him look years younger, almost boyish. Not her, he said. You. I ate my dinner and had to admit that he was right. This threw a wrench into my plans. My best idea for poking around the Cell Lake house and getting information had to be carried out that night, and I already had tomorrow night slated for a talk with Bianca. I had a feeling Murphy Carmichael would fail to turn up any cooperation of vampires. That meant I'd have to drive out to the Lake Providence at night, since Saturday night was now occupied by the date with Susan. or at least the pre-midnight portion was. My mouth went dry when I considered that maybe the rest of the night might be occupied too. One never knew. She had dizzied me and made me look like an idiot. She was probably going to try every trick she knew to drag more information out of me for the Monday morning release of the arcade. On the other hand, she was sexy, intelligent, and at least a little attracted to me. That indicated that more might happen than just talk at dinner, didn't it? The question was, did I really want that to happen? Had been a miserable failure in relationship ever since my first love went sour. I mean, a lot of teenage guys fell in their first relationship. Not many of them murder the girl involved. I shied away from that line of thought, lest it bring up too many old memories. I left McAnally's after Mac had handed me a doggy bag with the grunt of Mister. By way of explanation, the chess game in the corner was still in progress. Both players puffing up sweet-smelling smog cloud from their pipes. I tried to figure out how to deal with Susan. While I walked out to my car, did I need to clean up my apartment? Did I have all the ingredients for the spell I could cast at the lake house later tonight? Would Murphy go through the roof when I talked to Bianca? I could still feel Susan's kiss lingering on my cheek as I got into the car. I shook my head, bewildered. They say we wizards are subtle. But believe me, we've got nothing. Nothing at all on women. So, what do you guys think of the book so far? All the bubbles? Yeah. God damn. Fine. I'll hydrate. A lot of bubbles. God damn. That's all the bubbles. Literally. for the hip yet. So any thoughts on the book? Thoughts? Mm-mm. You know, this is where we're gonna call it for the reading stream. But someone that is trying to get affiliate is online. Flu is online. The one that recorded the bubbles for me. So we're gonna go ahead and read out to him. So we're gonna show him lots of love. Flu. Yes. We're gonna go. Here is the raid message. We're gonna go. We're gonna spam his chat with the raid message. We're gonna go show him lots of love. And tomorrow, we're gonna do a new game. Yes. So make sure to show Flu lots of love. Join in. Yes. Join in for the raid. You do get more channel points. I did. Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys enjoy it? Yes, I'm glad. We made it to, we finished chapter 5. A nice, quiet, relaxing stream. Go show Flu lots of love. Copy the raid message. He's the one that recorded the bubbles for me. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.